All right, Alexander, let's talk about what is going on in the US and in the US elections. It is Trump facing off against Kamala Harris. And JD Vance is being attacked. The media is going very hard after JD Vance. Kamala Harris, the media is really building her up. So they're going after Vance. They're really building up Kamala Harris. Trump and the assassination. What assassination? Assassination attempt. That's been forgotten. And every time people talk about the assassination attempt, or at least the collective West media decides to bring up the assassination attempt, it's in reference to the FBI's or Christopher Wray's assessment of the FBI, who says, well, bullet, yes, but maybe not a bullet, maybe metal fragments, even though the FBI put out a statement and they said it was definitely a bullet, but maybe not a whole bullet. Maybe it was bullet fragments. Anyway, they're trying to really
Yeah.
downplay, degrade the assassination attempt. Trump is going to go back to Butler, which is a smart move. Go back to Butler and give a speech and try to get focus back on the fact that they tried to take him out. That's what's going on in the U.S. And once again, it looks like the media, the big media outlets, the big social media companies, the FBI. It looks like they are rallying around Kamala Harris, a person that, to be fair and honest, no one really wanted. Let's be honest about it. No one really wanted her in any type of running for the president, but here we are. Democracy's on the ballot, is what they tell us.
Of course.
Interesting turn of events.
I think you've summed up the situation very well. Let's just first of all talk about the assassination attempt. As you correctly say, it's been memory hold. I mean, what assassination attempt? I mean, what in any other election cycle would be the dominant story? Not just the assassination attempt, but Trump's response to it. That would be the thing that even today, even after all these events, Biden standing down, Kamala going up, would still be the dominant story. And that picture of him standing up and saying fight and all that with the flag flying in the background. But of course, there's been completely memory hold. I mean, we don't want to talk about it. And we have this absolute complete red herring of a story that's been circulated by none other than Christopher Wray himself. That, we don't know that it was a bullet, it might have been shrapnel. Can I say, first of all, it was a bullet. The FBI says it was a bullet. The FBI have gone against their own director and have said that it was a bullet. The medical people say it was a bullet. There's no doubt that it was a bullet. But this is a total red herring, because even if it was shrapnel, what difference does it make? I mean, the fact was he was shot at and, he was wounded. And he did act with incredible courage in the face of all of that. That's the big story of this. But anyway, I mean, try and create doubts, make it seem in some way as if there isn't something quite real about it. That's the operation that's actually going on. Even though, as I said, this is a red herring and it is completely irrelevant. And anyway, the point is, we don't want to talk about that. Now, a few things to say. Firstly, the media, the Democratic Party, all of them are uniting behind Kamala Harris. They're also publishing opinion polls, which shows a certain bump upwards in her support, and they're going after JD Vance. Now, there's a number of points I want to make. Firstly, one would expect that in a situation like this, there would be a bump upwards in the announcement of a new candidate. There nearly always is. There's always this period of time when people look at a new candidate, they're prepared to give the doubt, they think about her. Usually, these things are very transitory. They don't last very long. But what makes this whole situation so extraordinary is that ultimately it is so artificial and so carefully sort of operated. Firstly, the attacks on Vance. They're not about things he said recently. They're not about the major issues that you would assume most Americans are really interested in, not about foreign policy or economic policy or about, all of the things that he was talking about. They're basically raking up old things that he said from some years back. And it's increasingly clear to me that the major talking point of the Democrats going forward in the election is not going to be economics. It's not going to be foreign policy. It's not going to be security issue. It's that recent decision of the Supreme Court to, end Roe and Wade. It's going to be an attempt to consolidate the support of women behind Kamala Harris around that particular issue. It's going to be the other various social issues that we know about. This is a purer version of that issue as an election issue than we've ever seen before, because it doesn't seem to me as if the Democrats are planning really to campaign on anything else. Secondly, there's a huge amount of not just memory holding the assassination attempt, memory holding the whole issue of the border, attempts to deny that Kamala Harris ever had responsibility for it, even though we all remember it, all that, 3+ years of her being the person in charge of the border. We're told that never happened, basically. And again, there's an attempt to avoid talking about that. And then lastly, and I think one of the most interesting things is there's been this article by Seymour Hersh again, but he's not actually telling us something that we hadn't heard from others, because Seymour Hersh and other people are saying that basically Biden was forced to stand down because Barack Obama told him that Kamala Harris had fixed things up so that if he didn't stand down as a candidate, they would move forward to remove him under the 25th Amendment. Now, that tells me a number of things. Firstly, that Biden's position had become extremely weak because, the idea of the Democrats removing their own president using the 25th Amendment in any election year ought to have been an absurd one. And if Biden had been in a strong position, if Obama had come along to him and told him something like that, he'd have just told him to get lost. Look, maybe not as young as I was, but you can't talk to me like that. I'm the president. If you want to try the 25th Amendment, just you dare, and I will fight you every inch of the way. And that should have been the end of the plot. So if Biden wasn't able to do that, that just shows how collapsed the situation within the administration actually was. But that's a historic point. More importantly, it shows that Obama and Harris were working together hand in glove. So that this narrative that we've heard over the last couple of days, arising from the fact that Obama delayed endorsing her, that looks to me now confected. It seems to me much more likely that our original supposition that Kamala was Obama's candidate was right all along. And in fact, all that we're seeing is Obama, again, acting in his usual way, covering his tracks. He arranges the deposition of Biden. He works closely with Kamala Harris, who's obviously his political ally, to do it. The moment it's done, though, he distanced himself from Kamala Harris. So he goes backwards, he sort of takes a big step back. So if Kamala Harris fails in the election, well, it's not Obama's fault. He wasn't that keen on her in the first place. And at the same time, in the meantime, the impression is created that, in fact, Kamala Harris isn't really Obama's tool. She's really an independent, dynamic, interesting, fascinating figure in her own gown who makes her own decisions, and that, she's in no sense, being run by Obama himself. It's classic Obama. It is exactly the way he likes to work. And the fact that that is so, again, shows again how artificial this all is. The memory holding of the assassination attempt of Kamala's background as the person responsible for the border, the emphasis, the narrow emphasis on the social issues. We have to be careful what we say. And on the Supreme Court, notice that they're talking now a lot about reforming the Supreme Court, which is, a bell whistle signal. It's all about one case. The memory holding of the assassination attempt on Trump, the attempt to try to pretend that there wasn't something quite real about that, even though, as I said, we saw it all ourselves. And lastly, the attacks on J.D. Vance, which bring up events from his past, but which then again play into the one issue that the Democrats look like they really want to run the election on. So there it is. Now, the problem with very artificial and very controlled campaigns of the kind that we're just seeing is that they can completely fall apart when they collide with real life. And given, the kind of background that Kamala has, I would have thought that is a distinct possibility. And it is entirely plausible that at some point over the next few weeks, we'll see the Kamala bubble burst.
Well, they're hoping that they could make it for 3 months, 4 months. That's what they're betting on. That reality's not gonna strike until November, December. Let it happen in December, in January. Let us just get Kamala past the November 2024 mark, and they're going to do everything they can to get her past that finish line. And they're pouring a lot of money into the campaign. 170,000 volunteers, 200 million raised in 1 week. They're investing everything they've got into building up this narrative of Kamala Harris was the president we always wanted. Actually, that was the person we wanted to go with from the very beginning. That's the person that should be president. Forget Joe Biden. They're actually memory holding Joe Biden. It's not only the Trump assassination attempt that they're memory holding, but they're distancing Kamala Harris from Joe Biden. They're memory holding Joe Biden. A couple of weeks ago, he was doing an interview every day. Now he's effectively disappeared, and many people are even questioning his height, which is interesting. That's a whole other conspiracy theory rabbit hole that we probably shouldn't get into. But that's the plan. Run on identity politics. Memory hole Biden, distance yourself from the Biden presidency and from the debacle that we saw play out over the past month, and present this shiny, brand new Kamala Harris that you may have not known it, American voter, but this is the person that you've always wanted to become president. You may have not realized it, but we're telling you she's the one. And what does Trump need to do? My thought is that Trump needs to make sure that Kamala and Biden are not separated. They're not distanced. He needs to make sure, his campaign needs to make sure that they are connected.
Yes.
That they are stuck together. That's what they need to do. And they should run on policy. They should not get sucked into a identity politics debate. Because
absolutely.
They will lose that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. I completely agree. I mean, they mustn't, under any circumstances, get drawn into that. They must focus on, the real bread and butter issues that concern Americans: the state of the economy, the inflation situation, the prices, the fact that the cost of living has gone up under the Democrats, and pointing out that that Kamala is, of course, a member still a member of the Biden administration, which she is, by the way, and keep focused, laser focused on that, and go on and focus on their own prospects, their own future for America. And of course, if Kamala wants to bring up things that J.D. Vance was saying, 3 years ago, well, there's plenty of things you can find that you can bring up about things that Kamala said. You want to play that game too, they can do that to some extent also. Not that I like that kind of politics, but sometimes, that's the nature of politics, and it's increasingly the nature of politics in America. The greatest problem that Trump and Vance are going to have is not in their message, it's in getting it across. The media is so hostile to them. It's so keen to sort of block them out to the extent that it can do. The social media continues to be so problematic that this is why, they need to continue to campaign in the way that they have done and in the way that Trump has historically done, going from place to place, running the campaign in this very personal way that they've done up to now. Because they can't run the campaign in the way that election campaigns have been run in America for some years, up to the way in which Trump started to do it in 2015, 2016. That's why, going back to places like Butler, continuing this process of going into, for outdoor rallies, that seems to me essential. I mean, if they continue to do that, they'll continue to build up support, or at least work towards doing that. If, on the contrary, they try to run an old-fashioned style election campaign, then they'll be at a massive disadvantage. Not because their views may not be attractive to many people, but because they simply won't get through.
Yeah, they're going up against the media, big tech, but this is something they went up against in 2020, and they went up against it in 2016. So you had two different results, 2016 and 2020. But we go back to Trump's first term in office, where he didn't handle the media big tech problem.
No,
he refused to handle it, and it continues to haunt him to this very day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And any final thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is I wouldn't take the opinion polls too seriously. I mean, both in 2016 and in 2020, the opinion polls showed Trump losing by huge majorities. I remember in 2020 we were talking about an opinion poll that was published roughly at this time in the election cycle, which put Biden 20% ahead. I mean, one shouldn't be too worried about that. I don't think these opinion polls bear much relationship to the realities of movements in the United States amongst, how people think and feel and may indeed vote. But they've got to keep going, because we talked about the media seeking to memory hold the assassination attempt, memory hold Biden himself, memory hold... The borders are, exactly, the border issues, the borders are, all of that. I mean, the big danger Trump and Vance have is that the media will memory hold them. That Trump and Vance will be reduced to sort of cartoon figures based on, sort of set of claims that the media is making about them. And that the actual Trump and Vance campaign, the real campaign, will simply disappear because it won't be covered. So they've got to continue, as we just discussed, campaigning in a way that really goes beyond traditional media and social media and things of that kind. So that is their challenge now. It's going to be very exhausting and very tough, but that's what they've got to do.
All right, we will end the video there. The Duran.looks.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfit, and Twitter, X, and go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.